This regular council meeting of February 23rd. I'd like council to put a motion forward to adopt the agenda of the February 23rd regular meeting. Councilor Rashagan. Second.
I'll second the motion, just for discussion, Mr. Mayor. At this morning's committee of the whole meeting, council, we noticed a small mistake in the agenda, and we've corrected that now by including the current letter from the RCMP with regards to the Cannabis Kootenays issue that's on the agenda. The wrong letter was put in, so it's been corrected now, and we've distributed the other letter. So just a motion to amend the minutes to reflect, or the agenda to reflect that.
Do I have a second on the amendment? Councilor Thompson. All in favor? So carried.
And then motion. I have to make a motion to accept the
To adopt the agenda.
adopt agenda as amended.
Do I have a motion for that, please? Councilor Butler, Councilor Thompson. All in favor? So carried. Okay, minutes. I would like to have a motion for council to adopt February 10th Committee of the Whole meeting as presented. Councilor Rashagan, Councilor Butler. All in favor? So carried. Would also like council to put a motion forward to adopt the February 10th regular meeting minutes. Councilor Butler, Councilor Rashagan. All in favor? So carried. Also, I would like to have a motion for council to adopt the February 13th special meeting to go in camera minutes as presented.
So moved.
Councilor Rashagan, Councilor Hammond. All in favor? So carried. Unfinished business. We have council has referred the MAPS request for lease extension, has referred this issue to our February 23rd regular meeting. I would like a motion for council to discuss the options with regard to the multi-agency accommodation project, program, and property. Councilor Butler, Councilor Hammond, debate. Councilor Hammond.
I understand the need for the services that are provided, and they're greatly appreciated. I don't have a concern with the original lease as it was signed. My concern is that there's a clause in there that says that if that land is developed or sold, there's a 2-week notice to the tenants that the city will take that property back. I have a concern that if a new building is created and placed on that adjoining property, that's a game changer. And I'm looking at, and I think everybody should look at what the city's going to look like in 5, 10, 15 years time. What do we want to see on that waterfront? It's the only developable land that we have that could be mixed commercial, residential, and I wouldn't like for us, if we do sell that property, or a future council, it's going to put us in a very hard position to turn around then and try to reclaim that property for development. And I think it's an important part that should be included in our development showcase that we're promoting to encourage investors into the community.
Councilor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, I'm just curious, how many pieces of property does the city own in that section right now along the waterfront?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure of the number of parcels, but I believe there's only one from the existing MAPS building that we have right now down. I believe there's only one parcel that we don't own, and the majority of it is parkland and some crown land along the river's edge. I don't have the details in front of us here, but we own the majority of it. I believe we only are missing one segment on the the downriver side of that property.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with Councillor Hammett's concerns in that if there is an actual building constructed, we would be very hard pressed to ask them to demolish and or remove it. And so I would like to be able to work with the organization to find a better location for their restore center.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, today Councillor Werschegen reminded of a meeting that we had at UBCM last year when we approached Minister Coleman about the project and seeking some funding there. And it was quite for those councillors that were there, I believe it was in the room, it was myself and Councillor Werschegen that were there. It was an emphatic not a chance from the minister. And at this point in time, it seems really interesting that they're offering this money at this point in time. So I'm wondering what's changed, because he said they're more like a 60-year lease would be something that they would entertain. But for myself and the members of council that were there, we left that meeting kind of feeling we had our tail between our legs, saying, okay, well, that didn't go very well. But there was an opinion from the minister at the time and the deputy premier that that was not a chance. So I think we would need a little bit more information for us to understand where the ministry is coming from in this respect.
Any other debate? Councillor Werschegen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to go off of what our CAO said there, I'm quite all right. I voted in favor of the 5-year lease, and as it would stand, the 5-year lease would still be in place, and without seeing any kind of documentation that would show otherwise, to switch it to a 10-year lease based on the possibility of getting funding, $100,000 in grants. I just, that's a big, 10 years is a long time, and it's just something without any kind of firm commitment from the government of BC Housing, and from that feeling that I got from that meeting with the minister as well, that at this point, I just rather see it stay as it's.
Any other questions? We have a motion on the table for discussions.
Is that okay?
Our discussions are terminated. We have a Councillor Butler. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to see this referred back to staff to talk with the applicants again about maybe looking, like Councillor Thompson said, about looking for other property or working with them. I really do want to support this project, and they've done a great job with what they're doing down there right now, and Habitat for Humanity has done other projects in our city that have gone quite well. So I would be upset to disappoint them on this project. Just hoping that maybe there's a third option that we haven't considered that staff can look at with them. And my concern, I think, the same as Councillor Werschegen, that if they didn't get this grant, do they still continue with that 10-year lease? And yeah, that seems to be where it's at. I mean, if they did get the grant, that's one thing, but if they don't and then they continue with the 10-year lease, that's a different story. I'm also curious, I just remembered, has the city invested any money into changing the layout of that property for them? Have we removed power pole or something, or done something with the sewer in that area already?
I believe we did a bit of infrastructure work there, adjusted the water main in there to accommodate for the future of a temporary building in there. The water main was relocated over towards the edge of the property. The other thing that we did in there was, I believe it was a power pole that was relocated, because the power crosses the river there, and I believe the water main goes underneath the river there as well.
Councillor Thompson. Oh.
So just to follow up on that, yeah, that's right. The original project was supposed to be a temporary building on that spot so that it could be moved. And I'm just wondering if they were able to find another temporary building, if that was something that we would entertain, because then it would be movable should we, yeah. So maybe that's something that staff could talk with them about as well.
Councillor Hammond.
Mr. Mayor, yes, I don't have a problem with temporary facility. providing that it could be moved when we're not in a position to have to rip down a structure. And I agree with Councillor Butler that I too want to work with them, and I don't want to disappoint them because we do need that service in town. I just don't think that that is the appropriate location on a permanent basis.
Councillor Thompson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to our staff. The motion, as I understand it, is to receive for discussion. Would it be appropriate to either amend that or put forward another resolution that council is unable to proceed with their request for a 5-year extension on the lease?
I think at this point right now, Mr. Mayor, if we could, I think council can receive it for information and refer it to staff for more information and bring a report back to council after we met with them. So I think receiving it for information and then further resolution to have staff report back with some more information.
So, any other motion for that?
Do we have to vote on the one, or can we
Yes.
just?
We'll vote on discussion, but
Yeah, but did we vote on the receiving for discussion?
I think we can, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, you can just receive that one just
Yes.
to simplify the process and then make another motion to
exactly. So
staff.
on the first motion, all in favor? So carried.
And I'll make a motion to refer this matter back to staff for further discussion with the applicant and a report back to council.
Do I have a second on that motion? Councillor Hammond? Any other discussion on that? All in favor? So carried. We'll now move on to our report from our council members, our verbal reports, starting with Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, Mayor Conrad, Councillors Thompson, Ross, Hammond, and myself attended a seminar in Kimberley. From Wednesday until Friday, we heard from a variety of speakers. Topics included meeting procedures, roles of council and staff, local government law, relationships with regional districts, other government agencies and working with First Nations, financial management, community planning, and relations with the media. The seminar also afforded us time to meet with the 100 representatives from neighboring communities, as well as time for our council to get to know one another a little better. I was impressed by the number of down-to-earth regular people doing their best to lead out in their communities, and especially the number of young people that were involved. I'll submit a full report of the seminar by the next regular meeting, as I just got back from it on Sunday. And yeah, it was very enjoyable. We had a good time and definitely learned a lot. In the past 2 weeks, council has also had 2 in-camera meetings, February 13th and the 23rd. That's it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On February 17th, I attended the Area D Rural Grand Forks Town Hall meeting. Director Rolly Russell discussed his role and responsibilities as a director. He also introduced those members of the Advisory Planning Committee in attendance. Director Russell then reviewed the draft financial plan for the whole of the regional district, and specifically those services for which the taxpayers of Area D contribute to through taxation. He fielded several questions from the 100 or so attendees. I was privileged to attend the elected official seminar in Kimberley, February 18th through 20th. I will be preparing a report that will be brought forward at our next regular meeting of council.
Thank you. Councillor Rashidi.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did not attend the elected officials seminar, as I've been here for a little bit longer than some of the others. But moving from the last meeting to this meeting, and now that council has decided and has voted on moving forward with the water meter project, I think it's pertinent that we continue on the right path with trying to fix the divide within the residents within this community and try to bring things together even further. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that council directs staff to develop a report that would present different options to try to satisfy the concerns of the residents who may be opposed to the water meter project. Included in this report, I would like to see options on how staff would proceed with collecting the data for the residents, from the residents.
Do I have a second on that motion? Councillor Thompson, any further discussion?
Yes, again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think it's a natural progression. The first part was for us to move forward, to decide as a council that this council was going to move forward with the project. Now we need to see how we could bring everybody together in a staff report, and then how we're going to collect the data and try to satisfy the needs of as many people as possible. We're never going to satisfy them all, but I think it's owed to residents and then those who do have some issues with this with the water meters for us to move forward and figure out how we can try to satisfy as many as possible.
Thank you. Any other further debate? Councillor Butler.
I'm just wondering, in that report, are we asking staff to include 2 options, 3 options? How many? Do we want to be specific with that?
No, I don't think we need to be specific. I think it should be as many as possible. I think as many as staff could come up with. If it is 2, it's 2. If it's 3, 4, 5, 6, who knows? It really depends on I believe the staff we have will be able to look at water metering projects across Canada, come up with solutions or look at solutions that other communities have used, and hopefully see if there's a way that they can adapt those to Grand Forks. And like I say, if it's 2, 4, 6, whatever the case may be, I think it should be just open-ended. And I trust that staff will give us a full spectrum of ideas for us to choose from or to use from A to C and make together. I'm sorry, there.
Councillor Hammond.
I just have a question for Councilor Watershed. I understand what you're saying, and I'm just curious, and I'm not in disagreement with it, I'm just curious how it will unfold if other options are brought forward and those people that already have water meters installed decide that they want to go with the other option instead. Do we then go back and uninstall the ones that are already in there?
Again, I think that's a situation that could come out in a wash in a report. I would not see that as being an option, but again, I will leave it in staff's hand to come up with those kind of solutions or options for us to move forward on. I don't want to sit here and hypothetically say yes or no to that kind of question, because I don't know what it's going to look like.
Directing the question to staff. Having said those options, according to Councillor Vershegen, would staff also, if it deems necessary, be prepared either to poll the citizens to get some of the input from our citizens out there? Is that
I think, Mr. Mayor, what we'll do is we'll bring forward the report with all the options, and council can debate and talk about what they want to do with that information. And then once you determine how you would like to approach it, we can kind of shrink it down and then move it forward into that refinement process. And then we can bring back a further report, because I think it's going to happen out of this report would be, we're going to bring you forward maybe 50, 20 realistic options that'll work for us. And we've got to have the costs and the implications attached to them as well, because we don't want to go into the far end of the spectrum or to the unrealistic end of things. We want to bring things that are attainable within the current scope of the project that we have. And once we've done that, that'll allow council to consider those things, and then council will maybe shrink that down, refine it, and then ask us to maybe reach the public or have an open house on it or something along those lines, and then solicit some feedback that way. I think that would be a typical approach that we would use.
in response to Councillor Hammett's question? I don't think removing water meters is a viable option at this point. For the cost incurred, I don't think it's relevant. We have to work within the parameters of those that are installed with our options.
Yes.
Any other debate or questions? So all in favor of the motion? Councillor Hammett, are we ready for your report?
All right, February 17th, Tuesday, I attended the Boundary Regional Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. That was the first one I've been to as a representative liaison from the city. And there was discussion on the destination marketing organization, a presentation from Cindy Albus. They've had 78% approval from accommodations throughout the boundary. They're just waiting now for the destination marketing organization to come back with a solid plan as to who's going to steer the ship on this program. They discussed fundraising. There's a dinner and a golf at Christina Lake in October. And there's an ambassador program. Then on February the 18th through to the 20th, I was at the LGLA conference along with Councillor Thompson, Councillor Butler, yourself, and Councillor Ross. Learning everything from regional districts, collaboration to strengthen the regions, to law. We had a legal clinic, the electric approval, local government powers, authority limitations. It was very informative, learned a lot, took a lot of notes, and yeah, it was worthwhile going, very worthwhile. March the 5th will be the first Deer Committee meeting that will convene, and I will be attending that. And so I will have a report back to that for the March 9th meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hammett. Councillor Ross and Councillor Krog are not present this evening. On my own report, I just have to concur what Councillor Hammett and Councillor Butler stated regarding the LGLA seminar, which I was present. I found it very enlightening and very, very productive, especially for us newies. And that is the end of my report. Can I have a motion to receive our reports? Councillor O'Shagan, Councillor Hammett. All in favor? So carried. Our RDKB report from Councillor Krog is not available this evening because he's not present. Does staff feel there's any other way of?
We can just, there is no report to receive, so we can just move past that.
Move past that one. Sounds good, thank you. We now have recommendations for staff for decisions. Our Chief Financial Officer will be in regards to policy 802-A1, the contracting authority and purchasing revision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As presented at the committee of the whole, the prior committee of the whole, this purchasing policy has a few revisions in it regarding ethical purchasing and regarding the requirements for 3 quotes. So if you have any questions.
Could I have a motion to adopt that policy and then we'll have debate? Councillor Hammett, Councillor O'Shagan. Debate, questions? All in favor? So carried. From our corporate services, it's in regards to bylaw number 2011-2015A, bylaw to amend the procedure bylaw number 1946-2013. The recommendation is that council give first 3 readings. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Butler. Discussion. Councillor O'Shagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As much as I was opposed to it before, I still think it's a little bit too vague for my liking. If it was a little bit more concise in what it's looking for, I'd be more in favor of it. So at this point, I'm going to have to not support it. I do understand the gist of it, and I do realize what it's trying to accomplish. I still think it's kind of enough.
Any other debate or questions? Councillor Hammond.
It's more of a question to Councilor Warshigan. You make any recommendations on how you'd like to see that changed?
Like, well, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Hammond. It's just like, there's certain parts of it, such as there's no intended length of what it's looking for. There's the portion of number 1 at the end, at the discretion of council. Failure to provide such written report may result in the offending member of council not being authorized to attend future conferences, seminars, or workshops. It doesn't say who would make that decision, what that penalty would look like, who would make that penalty, if it should be 4 pages or 2 pages, and if it's not 4 pages, like it just.
Size of font.
Size of font. It is just, to me, there's just a lot missing.
So sorry.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, one of the things that I know that council's already burdened with trying to read through a ton of information all the time. And you go through these conferences and you go there and you're sitting through these workshops and you're inundated with information. You're trying to take notes. And then you try to come back to this and you try to assemble this in the form of a report. I can imagine it being a challenge for council in that respect because you've already spent all this time to try to assemble this report. The other challenge would be for council from a regulatory perspective is from council members that, you know, they're all independent bodies that form one body. So regulating themselves for rules would be very challenging because not one person has authority over one person on council. So it's really a challenge. You guys can make your own rules as council, but the one thing we've got to be cognizant of is that we don't get ourselves into a position where it is vague. And I think the council keeps it very generalized in that respect in intention because it doesn't create a challenges for other councillors, because in that situation you can imagine yourself in a kangaroo court debating whether or not the report was sufficient or not, whether the content was there, or whether they felt as though that it best represented the organization. Council can, by policy, set, you know, which councillors will attend the conferences and which committees are on. There's all kinds of things we can discuss that way. So if council wanted to define that, we could discuss that at a later time in strategic planning and talk about what committees they sit on, which conferences they then would attend, and have those things because it relate back to their committees and that type of thing. So there's mechanisms that we can have, and I know that the previous council was talking about those things, but it's just a matter now of formulating that and making it official. So if you so choose, you can accept the policy as, or the bylaw as amended, or you can simply just refer it back to staff for more information.
So Councilor Warshigan, are you making a motion to refer it back for more information to staff?
I will make that motion actually to refer it back to staff, yes.
Do I have a second? Councilor Hammond? Any discussion on the amendment? Councilor Thompson?
Well, I'm going to oppose the amendment as it was my recommendation that the procedural bylaw be changed. My reasoning behind that is that when we attend conferences of more than one day, we all attend, in many cases, different concurrent workshops. And I would personally appreciate having something to refer back to in the form of a report. I was vague deliberately in the recommendation of how those reports should be. It would be up to the individual councillor who attended that on what they wanted to report. Hopefully that they would have some very pertinent information that they had gleaned from attending those workshops. In the past, councillors have attended various conferences, given an indication that they would be bringing back a report, and having sat in the gallery waiting to hear those reports, they weren't forthcoming. So I guess my concern is that if we are attending a taxpayer-funded workshop, conference, whatever, that I think the taxpayers have good reason to want to know what we learned and what we gained from attending those conferences. So that's all I have to say.
I believe.
Councillor Hammond.
Can I just make a suggestion, through you, Mr. Mayor? When I was at the Urban Deer Conference at the UBCM in Richmond, it was 2 days. And I sat there with my laptop taking notes throughout the entire presentation. I have 14 pages of notes, so it's not something that I want to come back and read all 14 pages of notes. And the same with this conference, like I took about 9 pages of plus we also have other hard copy documents that I didn't take notes on because we had it given to us in hard copy. Maybe I can suggest that instead of having to rewrite it or put it in our own words, if for the sake of the other councillors that didn't attend, or if we need to go back for reference, that we have folders available to all of us within our first-class software, that we can access those committee notes. So if anybody wants to go to the Deer Committee, I will have those 14 pages of the notes that I took. For the LGLA, I'll put my 9 pages in, but we also have access to the PowerPoint presentation that was done from the different presenters that we can also save in that folders, and name each committee folder and have those PowerPoint presentations put in there so that everybody has access to them.
Councillor Rashay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to what Councillor Thompson mentioned, I don't disagree with anything she said. I believe that it is necessary for us to report on our attendance at workshops and in as much detail as each councillor feels fit or sees fit. Again, the problem or not the problem, but the part of this that still hasn't been explained to me, and as our CAO mentioned the Kangaroo Court, part of it is failure to provide such written reports may result in the attending member of council not being authorized to attend future conferences, seminars, or workshops. Who's going to make that decision? How is the decision going to look? And that part of it just isn't clear to me. Who is the person or the people, and is there going to be a fine or a penalty structure, or like what is it if you don't do a report for 1 conference, 2 conferences? Like there's no meat on those bones that I can really understand. Like I just don't have an answer for that, I guess.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments. One in respect to Councillor Hammett's concern about reading the report. That was not my intention to have those reports read. It was my intent was to have the report as part of the agenda to be received as information. In respect to Councillor Wereshagan's concern, those decisions would be made by council. And I think it's council's procedure bylaw. And so if council deemed that a member was in default of that, then it would be a decision of council saying, Councillor, Mr. AYB, we have not received your report from the UBCM of 2013, and so if you're not prepared to give us a written report on that, then perhaps you shouldn't be authorized to attend. We won't know what you gleaned or what you learned or what you can share with members of council who didn't attend the same workshops as you.
Councillor Rashay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I appreciate everything you said there, Councillor Thompson. It to me, there's a portion of that seems to contravene the community charter in as much as the community charter lays out pretty specifically what the roles and responsibilities of the mayor and council are. And to me, that portion of it and the judgmental part of it or the judicial part of it seems to supersede that, which would be something that I don't believe we have the ability to do. In reading community charter, I don't recall ever stumbling across where we hold court on each other for missing or not missing. If you miss 4 consecutive meetings, you could be discharged from council. If it's 60 consecutive days, there's certain rules. And I think by that portion of this bylaw would supersede that, which would make it ultra violence, in my opinion.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear what you're saying, Councillor Shagan. Excuse me, but Nolan, this does not indicate that a councillor would be banned from council or their seat declared vacant or whatever. I realize that, you know, what the charter says with respect to authorized absences or unauthorized absences. This is dealing strictly with the report and council's ability to sanction or not sanction a councillor who doesn't follow. If, for instance, you attended, a member of council attended the EBCM and due to unforeseen circumstances, had an accident, was hospitalized, fell ill, and was unable to complete such a written report in the timelines. It's not saying that the councillor would not be authorized. It says may, and it's at the discretion of council. Failure to provide such written report may result in the offending member of council not being authorized to attend future conferences, seminars, or workshops.
Councillor Shagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe RCA can clarify this a little bit. I really think that portion of it is outside the realm of what we can do as a council in disciplining ourselves.
Mr. Mayor, if you like, I think the one thing that we can talk about as council is how do we, I think it's talking about that in a meeting where we've had a little bit more time to prepare for it, but talking about how we want to govern, whether it's communicate or do all these different types of things. I think it's an important an important process for undertake is developing our own rule book for each other. So I think that there's a point that Councillor Wershagen raises that are correct in that respect. I think that Councillor Thompson's intentions are genuine in this respect. And I think it's something that we're going to have to look into a little bit collectively and look at maybe what other municipalities are doing as well, just so we can make sure that we don't step outside of our regulatory powers. And also to make sure we've had time to discuss it, because I think it warrants a little bit more discussion to really understand what the intentions are. There's other things that council can consider in this respect too, is maybe staff has prepared a proper report mechanism sheet for council to have in those and attaching the agenda so you have them. So then as you attend those things, it's very easy for you to put those reports together. I mean, there's all kinds of things we can discuss, but I think it just requires us to have a little bit more time to discuss it.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is daunting, a lot of information was given, and now after a whole day of council meetings, probably tomorrow sitting down and filling out a report. But on the other hand, we do learn a lot more when we take the time to go back over our notes and to rewrite things and to go over the website that has that information. I'll learn a lot more the second time when I do it. Having said that, I do agree with what Councillor Wershagen has said. I'm curious though, because we've advertised this in the newspaper that we're changing our purchasing policy, if we send this back to staff for more information and for staff to clarify this, will we then have to advertise in the newspaper again?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, statutorily we're required to do that, but that's typically what we do when we're advertising to the public. So if it's referred back to staff, it could come then, we could bring it forward again for council to, once we've had some time to deliberate and discuss it a little bit further.
Councillor Wershagen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all this being said, the motion on the floor is to refer this back to staff, and if I may, I would like to call the question.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Sir,
All opposed?
May I have that recorded?
Councillor Thompson is opposed. In favor, Councillor Wershagen, Councillor Butler, and Councillor Hammond.
Sorry, can you tell me who seconded the motion?
I did.
Councillor Rashagan
Made the motion.
was the mover and the seconder was Councillor Hammond. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the Canifest Kootenays. Additional information has been submitted by Mr. Varabioff. My apologies if I pronounce his name incorrectly. Regarding the music event for consideration of council. The recommendation is that council advise staff as to whether they choose to support the event request as submitted by Mr. Varabioff. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councillor Hammond. Do I have a second? Councillor Thompson. Debate, questions, discussion. Councillor Hammond.
I think it should be noted that originally when Mr. Barabiev presented to us with a request for the Canifest Music Festival, it was advertised as an educational event to promote and educate on medical marijuana, and they would have a dispensary there where they would be selling it. We have since refused that application, and he's now come back and said that there will be no sales of medical marijuana at the event at all. He's also assured that there will be no liquor permitted on the grounds. Although I'm not sure that that's as bad because we sell liquor at the GFI when we open the gates. But in any case, because he has conformed to council's request that nothing illegal would take place, it's going to be a music event and an educational event. I make a motion that we accept his request and allow him to proceed.
Okay, we already have a motion on the table. Further discussion or debate, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with everything Councillor Hammond has said, and we did discuss this morning at the committee of the whole meeting. There were other concerns with regards to the field and keeping that in good condition, and a few other things around security and having the approval of the RCMP. I think at that point in the meeting this morning, we felt that because there are no federal laws being broken at this point, it's something that staff can handle. If we send it back to them, that they'll be able to work out those details for Mr. Varabieff, and we can support the event.
Any further discussion, debate, questions? Then all in favor? So carried.
A point of clarification,
Councillor
that
Thompson.
was the vote to receive for discussion? The motion to receive for discussion or the motion to approve?
It was a motion to support the event request as submitted by Mr. Varabieff.
Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Would that be with the provision that he has satisfied all the other, as far as RCMP approval and ambulance, the other things that he had mentioned in his request?
CEO once again.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, according to our policy for field use or our facility use, there is a checklist that they must check off. So if we're going back and we're utilizing that, just like the Samboree folks did last year, they gave council a deposit, or the city a deposit for the use of the field. We did the inspection afterwards, and then we did those things. If they're required to do other things as it refers out, if they're having a large event, yes, they'll have to reach out to the RCMP, notify what they're doing. The fire department will have their say on who is going to be, what type of responses they have to have for first responders or those types of things. So it'll be referred to all the departments in our organization and beyond.
So everything is contingent to the city's policies and procedures.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have now information items from Mr. Mackay, support letters for vets received for information. Do I have a motion? Councillor Butler. Councillor Rashagan, second. Discussion. All in favor? So carried. Our second item is Selena Robinson, MLA, opposition spokesperson for local government and sport on local government issues. Councillor Thompson.
I move that we receive this for information.
Do I have a second? Councillor O'Shea. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. James and Marcella Kasterkoff. Again, my apologies if the pronunciation is incorrect. Private citizen water meter questionnaire. To receive this for information, can I have a motion? Councillor Butler, Councillor Hammett. All in favor? So carried. Now move on to our bylaws section. Our Chief Financial Officer, Bylaw 2009, electrical utility. The motion I request is that council give it final reading. Do I have a motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor O'Shea. Discussion? Questions? All in favor? So carried. We now have the regulatory amendment bylaw. Motion for the reading to bylaw 2009 electrical utility regulatory amendment bylaw. Do I have a motion? I thought we did that? It's duplicated, my apologies. We have no late items. We now move on to the questions from the public and the media. Who would like to be first? Gentleman in the back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bob Kendall. Mr. Mayor, at the last committee of the whole meeting, I sat and listened to comments and accusations directed to councillors from Councillor Butler regarding secret meetings and secret decisions made by members of council. Well, we're here 2 weeks later and these accusations continue to be perpetuated in the press and the radio. And I think they're festering and creating discontent in this community. These current and past statements and subsequent reaction to them speak volumes to the character and I would say lack of confidence in some members of council. So, Mr. Mayor, would you please explain to me and the citizens of Grand Forks what's going on here and what's being done to resolve this issue?
I would say yes, there has been trouble amongst councillors, but we are working on it. We're doing our best effort to bond together for the citizens out there on behalf of the community. These issues, as major as they may seem to the public, they probably are, but they will be addressed.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answers your question. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I'll respond to Mr. Kendall's question as well. I have no problem with what I stated at the last meeting. I know it has caused some concern in the community, but I am deeply concerned with it myself, which is why I felt that I had to say it. Within the community charter, the first A through O are sections that may go in camera, and I know, Mr. Kendall, you're aware of this as well. The last 5 sections are things that must be done in camera, and I think there's been a call, not just in this area, but across the country, for governments to start acting more out in the open in front of the public. Now, of course, there's some things that are sensitive and do need to remain in camera, but I would really like to see more of those things brought out from in camera, either after the in-camera meetings or not even hold them in camera at all. I think that creates more trust in the public if they know what's going on and that they can trust that their council is being open with them on issues and wants to involve them in those issues. as the mayor has stated, we are working on things amongst ourselves. And hopefully, if we can resolve issues amongst ourselves, that the community can start to do so as well. I really don't like to see neighbors pitted against neighbors. I don't like to see people that I used to have my kids play with not come over anymore. And that's really upsetting. And it's not something that I want to put on a political face for. I don't want to pretend everything's okay. I want everything to become okay. And I hope that you can trust me to know that I'll speak with honesty and integrity in those matters, and that they will get resolved.
Thank you, Councilor Butler. Any other questions? Gentleman in the front.
My name's Murray Rennie, and it pertains to the water meter thing being brought up. I'm just curious as to the present water meters that have been installed. Are they the equivalent to the smart meters for electricity that can track my use so that you can charge me more between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock when people are getting up, having showers, and so on? And if so, is it the intention that down the road we'll get soap for depending on when we use the water?
That's a technical question that we're not able to answer, but I will try to direct it to staff to see if we can get a response. It's totally technical. We're not in a position to answer a question like that.
Mr. Mayor, I can tell you that the meters don't have the water meters do not have the technology to monitor the time of day for us at this time when the water is being consumed. We know on our system-wide when we're consuming it right now on our SCADA system, our SCADA will tell us what's coming out of the ground, at what times our pumps are running the hardest. But the intention has never been to follow the BC Hydro model for metering. What we're doing is looking at trying to manage our consumption so we can monitor, so we can reduce our infrastructure investments. It's essentially what it is.
So they don't run in parallel similar to the smart meters in electricity? No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Lady in the second one.
Donna Semenoff. I did research the water meters a bit. It says very clearly that they're capable of enforcing watering restrictions. So that's a very interesting statement, but I haven't been able to get an answer of how it's possible that water meters could enforce. So there's something about them that I don't understand yet. Also, about something that you discussed earlier, there's different residents have said things to me, like even today, they said that when they had their water meter installed, they were told that it only emits the signal for the radiation when it's being read. And I've heard this a number of times. So for some reason, they've been told that, and there's confusion about that. I've also heard someone say that they didn't even know they had an option to have an opt-out. So they had the other one in. So I only bring that up because there was mention that, sort of the idea that maybe the people already got them in and it's okay. But I wanted you to know that there are situations like that out there, and to maybe consider where you want to go with that. Ideally, I think you'll be most likely to meet needs if you can somehow officially make yourself open to hear if anyone has any concerns who already got them in, maybe a time limit and how they can reach you. And then you can also come up with your options more better and have sustainable relations with the community if you know what any of the concerns are. So I'm hoping that you will make yourselves open, and I think that will say a lot for you as in terms of the respect you offer the citizens. And I don't think that it'll be overwhelming. I think there's probably some common themes to things, but I believe it can be worked out if people try to communicate with each other. And I appreciate that you are trying to work on a number of possible solutions and approaches. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmerman. Gentleman in the back.
Les Johnson, I just wanted to point out that the idea that you could have, use time-based billing and that sort of thing, like Hydro intends on doing, that's totally up to what the elected officials choose to do with the information the meters gather, if they could indeed gather that. It's not something that's a de facto thing. It's like having a policeman with a gun. Just because he has his gun, he's not going to shoot you. You need a reason for it. And it's a thing that is decided by the people you elect in a community where you all know each other. So just wanted to point that out.
Interesting analogy. Thank you. Gentleman, the second one.
Brian Taylor, Mr. Mayor. Can I assume that the Water Rates Committee will be an open public meeting? I'm assuming it will be.
I direct that at staff.
Mr. Mayor, the officers of the committee, once we strike the committee, council struck the committee, and the terms of reference will be set up with that committee. And then once the committee decides on how they want to conduct it, depending on the interest that they might have from the public, we'll be determining the form that they would have to have for that structure. I think most council meetings or committee meetings are generally open for the public, so I think that, I'd recommend to council to continue that to be the case, unless council sort of choose to do it otherwise.
Is that satisfactory, Mr.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Gentleman in the front.
My name is Hamilton, James Hamilton. A couple of questions, if I may. First, just curious, why, when the city retains the ownership and responsibility for all electrical meters, does the city now insist that all citizens must purchase water meters and that citizens must retain ownership and responsibility for the upkeep of the water meters? And there's a reason for asking that. Is that a technical question that can be answered?
Direct that to our CAO, Mr. Allen.
Mr. Mayor, there is no intention for, if there's wording in the bylaw that is wrong in that respect, I think the misinterpretation would be that keeping the water meter in good shape or in and around it, that there's nothing attached to it, there's none of those things going on, just like your electrical meter on your home, you don't attach things to it or do anything that way, Mr. Mayor. But the idea is the city doesn't look to the homeowners to buy the meter and then replace the meter and then have one in good order. If there's a problem with the meter, the city will look after that meter. Just like the electrical meter, just like when you buy gas from the gas company, they will replace your meter. If we've got that language wrong in the bylaw, we will correct that, bring that forward to council and correct that.
Thank you. Is that satisfactory?
Wonderful, we will correct that bylaw, that's a wonderful thing, because the way it stands at the moment in the bylaw, the what do you call it, homeowner has a responsibility financially for the upkeep of that meter. If somebody wrecks the meter, the homeowner must replace it. Anyway, so that's good, that's going to be changed. Now here, has the staff of the city ascertained that the city's insurance coverage will stand as is, seeing as the safety and integrity of said meters is being called into question by national experts across the country? And the reason I say this, I have a background in insurance from the ACII, Associated Chartered Insurance Institute. That was in the United Kingdom, much the same here. Changes such as the new meters may affect the terms of policies. At the last meeting, Councillor Hammett, basically said that our insurance will cover it. But from an insurance point of view, when a claim arises, if something has changed since the instigation of the original policy, then that insurance company will always try to find a reason not to make the claim and to sue and so on. So I'm looking at the integrity of the city because, number one, the city has no insurable interest in a water meter which is owned by the homeowner. And so what would happen if there was a faulty meter, and unfortunately the meters are technically illegal, if you look at the actual laws, and we know they're fine, hopefully, but if there's a fire, for example, which has happened in Saskatchewan, and that happens and there's a claim, I've ascertained that the insurance company would make the claim and then sue whoever is responsible for putting in a faulty meter. So the last question is basically, have you checked with the city's insurance coverage that they're willing to cover these, because it could become quite horrendous?
I will direct this at staff, even though the agenda tonight does not include the water meters, but
Yes, the short answer to that is, Mr. Mayor, yes. the city does not have any intention, if something happens to one of our homeowners, just like what happened when we were displaced from City Hall during our fire, the community came forward, and I think that the council would, if something like that was to happen and we had a horrendous situation, bring it back to council, say, how do you want to react in this situation? Here's the opportunity for us to do this. I mean, I don't think that the city wants to displace a resident in the event of something like that happened, and it's determined as potentially our fault. We've had those situations, and I would always encourage us to take find the solution for the homeowner, because the last thing we want to do is have one of our homeowners displaced. I've seen this happen before where a home has been flooded, and I've been in another community where a water meter is broken, and the one thing is the insurance company will come in and deal with that thing, but we have to get in there and deal with it right away. Accidents happen, and that's the reality of the world that we live in. We will deal with the situation, and I can rest assured the council that I will deal with that and bring it forward to you. And I will definitely deal with expediting the situation so the homeowner there's less inconvenience, but I can't guarantee there will never be a problem. Just like with an electrical meter or with a water meter or with a sidewalk heaving up, I can't guarantee any of those things, or a water main breaking or a sewer main backing up. What I can do is I can let you know we'll have the integrity to bring it forward, Mr. Mayor, so the customer can rest assured that they should not be displaced. But the reality is the insurance companies will still battle. They always do. But the thing is the city can do is carry some of that reassurance for the customer to make sure that they're not displaced.
I'd like to thank our CEO for that response. Mr. Hamilton, does that satisfy your question?
Thank you very much for that. I guess you misunderstood my motive in saying this. I understand, as I said, the homeowner would be paid by the insurance, and insurance would come to the city. The problem I'm asking directly, and I would urge you to get in touch with your insurers and ascertain whether they will cover. Because yes, the city will do this. Who's covering the city? It has happened in Saskatchewan where there was dozens of fires that happened because of these meters. Maybe not the same exactly one, but whatever. The point is, the insurance companies, as far as I can ascertain right now, are beginning to back off. And I want to check that the city has got, because it's our city, we want you to be sure that you're going to get coverage when you have to step in that situation. So I'd like to check up on that.
Mr. Mayor, we can confirm that we have done that, and then the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
I just wanted to point out for clarity that the meters in Saskatchewan are electrical meters, and I don't know of any water meters catching fire anywhere. So
You would probably go out anyway, though. Do I have any other questions from the gallery? You sure? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Rashagan, all in favor? So moved. Carried.